So just as for those of you who may not be that familiar with Acumatica, we are by far the fastest growing cloud ERP solution on the market. We have a lot of things that make our product unique as far as the ability to deploy it anywhere you want and the ability to invest in it any way you want. Those things make us very flexible. Also, we sell exclusively through a channel, and so our customers always work with somebody that knows them, knows their industry, many times their local partners, and we've just got a really great fit with an ERP cloud solution for middle market customers. That's our target, that's where we play well, that's where we're gaining all of our notoriety, and we're very, very well decorated. PC Mag Editor's Choice Award, we've gotten the Leader Quadrant with highest usability in the Nucleus Research ERP Value Matrix. So a lot of things. If you look for Acumatica, you're going to find a lot of innovation that we're doing too. So you can Google Acumatica and Alexa demo, and you'll see some of the things that we're working on in the future. And we really pride ourselves on being a technology company with a great channel and excellent customers. So with that, when we talk about partners, we also have a very vibrant and active ISV community. And of course, our ISVs are those companies that help extend the functionality of Acumatica and make it even more of a complete solution for our customers. So with that, I'll turn it over to Adrian to introduce Jackie.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Awesome introduction to Acumatica and all the exciting things that are going on over in Cloud ERP. And we're joined by Jackie Garino. She's a sales engineer at Uplevel. We're going to be talking about the top 5 ways to streamline accounts payable processes in Acumatica Cloud ERP. And Uplevel specializes in Cloud ERP. So I'm going to go ahead and let Jackie get started. Jackie, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you both for having me. I'm very excited to show everyone how Uplevel works with Acumatica and automating your AP processes. Like Adrian said, we'll answer questions at the end, but feel free to jot down my contact info, which should be on your screen right now, and I'm happy to answer any questions or have a follow-up call with anyone. So I just have a couple slides to go through, and then I'm going to jump right into showing you how Uplevel works and how what we do to automate AP processes. So a brief history of Uplevel. This is just a few highlights of the company. So it was founded in 2002, actually by a CPA who saw that there's a real need to better manage documents around accounting, especially with AP. So he looped in a technical team and they started developing this product. We began founding partnerships with different ERPs, our most recent one being Acumatica in 2015. And we've also along the way been adding in more and more functionality to help with that automation and to keep the product up to date with all the technological advances. So things like automated data entry using OCR, business intelligence, and also, of course, security is a big topic. And last year we announced our HIPAA compliance. So if you signed up for this webinar, there was 5 reasons we mentioned that 5 different ways you can automate your AP process. So this is just a brief bullet point list of those 5 items, and I'm actually going to show you how we do this with Uplevel. But just to briefly cover it, so we're cloud-based, and so we offer centralizing all your documents, all your invoices in one place. You can access from anywhere as long as you have an internet connection and a browser. You'll see how our OCR works to automatically enter in a lot of the data that's normally done manually with AP. And with that, how you can minimize errors, how you can capitalize on efficiency, take advantage of early payments, save on things like late payments or missed payments because a document was misplaced or an invoice never got approved. All of that will become fruitful once you start using Uplevel and can better track everything that's going on within AP. And you'll also see how our workflow operates, how you can automate sending invoices for approval. You can create rules based on your processes at your company and setting up reminders so you don't need to chase people down or go up to somebody's desk and get that invoice stamped approved. The system will automatically do that for you. And then lastly, the culmination of all of this is really just being able to leverage technology so that as your business scales, so can your AP department without needing to bring on additional labor costs. So you'll see with all of this automation, it'll free up a lot of your current employees to work on more value-add activities, and you won't necessarily have to hire more people to do manual things like data entry. So with that, I'll jump right over to our product, Uplevel. So the first part in all of this is getting your invoices and other documents into Uplevel. And there's a few different ways you can do that. You can scan them in, you can upload them. Definitely the most efficient way is you'll just email your invoices over as attachments. So that's why I have my email open here. And so I have a sample invoice attached that we're going to process through. And I have this email account that I actually created in Uplevel. So you can label this, or your client can label this, whatever makes the most sense for them. And then this email address can be distributed to vendors, it can be given to employees, so they can just send their documents right into Uplevel. It will automatically get filed into a folder structure, and then it'll get it picked up in any workflows for that invoice. So let's go ahead and send this invoice over. So here I'm logged into Uplevel. I'm on my Explorer tab, and this is where this folder structure is. So I have a couple different folders for different departments, and within that I have a couple other folders, and all of this is configurable. So however you like to have it organized or labeled, that's completely up to you or the end user. And you can also, of course, restrict permissions on any of this. So only accounting will see what's going on in accounting, only legal will see what's going on with their documents and their processing in legal. So if we take a look at what's in our accounting folder, we can open up that email that we just sent over. And so over on the right, we see the actual body of the email. So any notes that your vendor made, or maybe an employee wrote a little message, that's automatically captured. And then down here on the left, oops, I can scroll down and I can switch over to see the actual invoice that we sent in. So here's my sample invoice, and I'm just going to refresh this quickly. And so over on the left-hand side is where we have all of our data and attributes. So let me switch one more time. So the Uplevel automatically assigns it a unique document number. It picks up what the invoice was called, usually just something assigned by a scanner, what kind of document it is. In this case, it's a bill we're going to send over to Acumatica, today's date, and we're going to push this through our invoice approval process. And right now, it's in that initial status of captured. So down here in the attributes section, this all maps to your data fields over in Acumatica. So when you're looking at your vendor list, it's pulling that information over. So you still maintain your vendors, your GL accounts, all that's done in Acumatica, but you can work with it from within Uplevel because we pull that data over. So let's go ahead and fill this invoice out here. I'll just select today's date. I'm gonna make this. And these are just sample attributes. You might not have multi-currency, you might have additional fields or more or less fields. So all this will be configured depending upon what you have set up over in Acumatica or what your client already has set up. So let's go ahead and put in this total amount here. And we'll go ahead and save this. So now what I'm going to do is submit this for approval. And what I have set up right now is just a simple one-step approval. It's going to go to my AP manager for approval. And then once they approve it, that will send it over to Acumatica to create the AP bill. So to do that, I just go up to workflow, mark as request approval. I confirm that that's what I want to do. So we'll transition it. And now at this point, you can have notifications and reminders set up, which is something we mentioned from that list of 5 items. So I can have a notification that goes to my AP manager. It'll say, hey, you need to approve this invoice. It will contain the link, and they can click on that link, and it brings them right to the invoice. Or any user can go to the My Workspace tab. And from here, it shows the user what's assigned to them in a workflow. So if you're an approver, you're just going to see, what do I need to approve? So under our invoice approval workflow, I have 27 invoices in the captured state that need to get coded and submitted for approval. And then I have 4 pending my approval. So we can go ahead and open up that same invoice. And we'll take a look at it now as an approver. And if everything looks good, which I think it does, we can go ahead and approve it, which will send it over to Acumatica. So we'll mark it as approved. So once it goes to send it over to Acumatica, it runs a series of checkpoints. So it'll make sure that your totals add up. We just did one line item, but it was multi-line item. It would check it adds to our total amount. It'll check it's not a duplicate invoice number. All those kinds of things that you're used to happening when you enter it directly in Acumatica will happen within Uplevel. So that way, if there is some kind of an error, you'll receive the message in Uplevel, and you can fix the problem before it hits your accounting system. But this went through fine. It passed all our checkpoints, so we can go ahead and see what this looks like over here in Acumatica. So I'm in my Finance AP, go to our Bills and Adjustments. Let's go to our last one, entered. Here we go. So you can see it looks just like if you had entered it directly into Acumatica. The only thing is there's these 2 additional fields. So Uplevel also sends over that unique document number, and it adds a URL. So if you're working in Acumatica and you want to see the document that goes with this invoice, you can just click on this link and it brings you right to Uplevel. And so with that, you not only see the invoice, the attributes, any emails that came within it, but you also get the full audit trail. So I can see down here everything that happened with this invoice. If someone changed the total amount, if they just viewed it, it's logged with their username, the action taken, and the date and time. And you can also check out who approved it and submitted it for approval under the work summary. So you can see how long is your workflow process taking. If there's a question from an auditor, you can quickly reference it and print any of this information off to them. Before we move on, one more thing I'll mention on the workflows is that what we saw just now is a really simple one-step approval, but you can also create rules to route your invoices accordingly. So maybe your process is around the amount. If it's over a certain threshold, it has to go to additional approver. Maybe depending on the department selected, it has to go to that department head. So there's no limit on the number of approvers you can route your invoices to or how you want to route them based on any of those attributes. So now that you have all your invoices in one place in Uplevel, you of course want to be able to find them. So to do that, it's pretty straightforward. You can utilize our search tab. And from here, you can narrow it down based on the type of document. You can see in this case, we're using Uplevel for bills and also for contracts. And then I can narrow it down based on where it is in a workflow. Maybe I want to see what's pending my approval. Maybe I want to look at a particular vendor, or I can look up a particular invoice number. All those kinds of things you can narrow down your search for. And you can also do a content search. So this, again, utilizes OCR to look for anything on an entire document. Even if I didn't store it as a data field, it will still go and look for a phrase or a word on all my invoices and retrieve those that contain that word or phrase. You can also go over to the dashboard and get more of a high-level look at everything that's going on. So I can see my recently added documents. If I have documents checked out, what was I recently looking at, any saved searches. And then over here on the right, I can see what's happening with my workflows. So all the documents currently in a workflow, all the current active workflows. And this is similar to my workspace where you can narrow it down to each stage of a workflow, but it'll show you everything you have access to, not just what's assigned to you. And then this information I can also export to a CSV file if I like. And then over here we have the administrator tab. So only if you're administrator will you see this tab, and this is where you can maintain the system. So if you need to add a new folder, add a new user, modify your workflow, all of that you can do right from here. It's a really simple interface, pretty straightforward. You don't need IT, you don't need to call us, although you're more than welcome to. But you can just go in at any time and make any modifications that you need to. And then one final thing that we'll look at here is our Business Intelligence tab. So this, again, is aimed at looking at your processes and identifying areas where maybe there's bottlenecks or where you can improve efficiency. So I can see that my average completion time for my invoice workflow over the course of the past week is actually less than a day, so that's pretty good. And then over here, I can see which documents have been in a state of a workflow for more than 3 days. So if I want to identify what do I need to process right away, I can click on any pieces of this pie. So let's say I have these invoices that are pending approval, and then it'll list them out for me. So these are hyperlinks, and I can open them right from here and process them. And then over here, we have our workflow completion rate by month. So again, you can track your processes, how much is getting done, how quickly, and this is especially helpful if you're leveraging Uplevel for things outside of AP as well. So if you want to keep track of your contracts, employee expenses, maybe just technical documents you need to store somewhere, all of that you can leverage Uplevel for and view from the BI dashboard. So with that, did we have any questions that came in, Adrian?
Yes, we have a couple questions here. Does Uplevel automatically fill in the fields? I saw it picked, but I saw it pick some, but not others. Thank you, Jake, for that question.
Yeah, that's a good question, Jake. So what we do is we create templates and we use those to identify what fields you want to capture and then populate the attributes. So it only populated a couple. Oh, the quick poll just popped up in this example, but we can capture things like the invoice date, the vendor, the total amount, due date, any of those kinds of things we can make sure the system captures and fills in those data fields for you.
And Jackie, I'll let you show your screen again. I just have a poll up, so I just wondered if we might have everybody complete this poll. If you're interested in learning more about any of the following, check all that apply: automating the entry of accounts payable, storing all invoices in a centralized cloud application, becoming an Acumatica partner reseller, implementing a new ERP system like Acumatica Cloud ERP. If you could just take a moment to answer this poll, that would be awesome. And thank you, Jackie, so much for your presentation. So,
absolutely, thank you.
And we have another question here. How does your application work with ERP systems? Is everything in the cloud and integrated? How does that integration work?
Yep, so everything's in the cloud, and we depend upon the ERP. It's either an API or a web services connection.
And then just to remind the audience, if you do have a question, go ahead and click on that question mark button next to your name on the webinar pane, and we'll announce your question for Jackie or for Dawn if you have any questions about Acumatica. We'll just go ahead and leave this poll up. Wow, we got done with the presentation fairly quickly here.
I drank a lot of coffee today, so.
Okay, yeah, so we have a question from Barry. Thank you, Barry. Does this work with purchase receipts in Acumatica? Can it match the receipt with the invoice?
So the way that would work is you would process the invoice just like we did, and then you can associate your purchase receipts or POs in Acumatica. So you would go back into Acumatica and make that connection.
So does this also work, Jackie, with sales order entry where somebody might email a purchase order or a document and then you'll bring it in via email and match up all the fields?
So the purchase order would have to originate in Acumatica. And then at that point, when the invoice comes in, we can process that and send it over to Acumatica. If the vendor is sending the invoice via email, then yeah, they can send it to an email account created in Uplevel, which is what I did today, or it can just get forwarded on if they're used to sending it to a different email address.
Oh, thank you, Javier. So Javier's mentioning that accounts receivable is where sales orders flow into. So could you maybe clarify that? So let's say you have a document that comes in that is that comes into like a warehouse arrangement where it's an order from a customer. So you're just doing everything on the vendor side with accounts payable, right? So you're not doing anything.
Right.
on the accounts receivable side. Okay.
Correct. At this point, yep, we're just on the AP side. You can, of course, store the other documents in Uplevel, but it won't integrate with the AR side of Acumatica right now.
And there are accounts receivable applications that that are available out there that will do the accounts receivable side, correct? Probably. I've seen some of them where you can email, where there can be an order received via email, and then if it's, you know, faxed, if people still use faxes, or if it comes in through email, then the hard copy can flow into Acumatica or the ERP system and then be automated, you know, with pick pack solution or
Yes,
go
correct.
through the workflow.
Yeah, that is right.
And there's a lot of places where AP systems might overlap. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit on that, Jackie? Where I see a lot of different AP solutions available out there. Can you elaborate on kind of the differentiation for Uplevel compared?
Sure. Yeah, so some of the things that usually come up when people are looking at other AP solutions, some differentiators. One main one is where your invoices get sent to. So some AP solutions, it's all sent to one place, and there's people there who enter it in. It's not your company or your client's company that's actually processing it. They don't see those invoices until it gets entered into the system. Whereas with ours, it goes directly into Uplevel. You have control over it. Your vendors can send things directly into Uplevel, and you see everything in real time. There's no delay. So that's one just difference, really, off the bat. The other is the flexibility of our workflow. So there's a lot of systems that have some kind of a workflow, but they don't necessarily have the flexibility to send it to multiple approvers at the same time, to do split level approvals. They might have limitations on the level of approvals and creating rules. So ours is really flexible and powerful. And it also comes with the automated reminders. So maybe every 3 days, if someone needs to get pinged, hey, you need to approve this, you can set up those kinds of reminders too. And also our integration. I don't think there's too many actually out there that integrate with Acumatica. And we also integrate with some other ERPs, which might appeal to some partners who also work with other ERPs. But in terms of working with Acumatica, I think it's actually a pretty small pool.
And we do have another question from Javier. He's wondering what other ERPs you have experience with. Have you done any implementations with Sage 100 or any of the other ERPs, he's asking?
Yep, we work with Sage 300, NetSuite, and Intact.
And then Jake, thank you for your question. Can you make changes in Uplevel, and can the change be made in Acumatica?
So once you send the invoice over to Acumatica, if you make a change in Uplevel, it won't get reflected in Acumatica. But the idea is that you have a very set workflow, and you have several checkpoints along the way before it gets to Acumatica. So you really shouldn't have to make any changes by the time it creates the bill over there.
And is the integration bi-directional? Thank you, Jake.
Yep, so those fields you saw, like the vendor, the GL accounts, that's information we pull from Acumatica, and then we send over the data that gets entered in and to create the bill.
And how long is the implementation? Thanks, Javier.
So that is highly dependent upon the client. It can be as little as a week. It can take 4 weeks. It really just depends on how complicated or simple their workflows are, the number of users they're having, how much training do they want. There's a lot of factors there, but it's relatively quick. Our basic implementation package allocates for 15 hours of work on our end, 15 hours of professional services. So we do implementations in as little time as that.
And I'm not seeing any further questions so far. If you do have a question, we just invite you to click on that button next to your name on the webinar pane with the question mark and indicate your question.
And I'll pull up my contact info again, just in case.
And Jake, thank you so much. How do we get started if I have some interest? Jackie will definitely be following up with everybody to make sure all your questions were answered. So your questions are aligned with your name. So Jackie will definitely make a point to follow up with you and get you all the information that you seek. And I just want to remind everybody that the poll is up. So if you can, take a second to answer this question. If you have any interest in any of those 4 points, if you don't, that's fine. I see 45% of you have voted.
Well, while we're wrapping up, I just wanted to thank everybody for attending and paying attention during the presentation. And Jackie, thank you so much for providing the content and the good information. And as everybody can imagine, Acumatica very greatly values their ISV relationships and the functionality that's then extended to the Acumatica core. So any questions that any of us can answer, even if you're shy and don't want to ask them now on the presentation, you can always submit them and we can answer those afterwards too. So thank you, Adrian, for putting this together, and Jackie for the presentation, and everybody who attended as well.
And it's my pleasure. I love doing this. And we're going to have our next webinar in April. So stay tuned for that. We have a manufacturing related webinar coming up and a pick and pack for the warehouse and some more accounts payable related webinars. So again, thank you so much. And we'll be back in touch with you. I'm going to go ahead and close out this poll and share the results. So 67% of you are interested in automating the entry of accounts payable, and 33% of you are interested in storing the invoices in a centralized cloud application. So thank you for that. And Jackie, great presentation, and we'll be sending a follow-up email with the recording and everybody's contact information. And we just love that you joined our webinar today, and we hope to see you in the future.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty, Dawn and Jackie, thank you so much. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.